The Isle, the game where every player starts as a juvenile dinosaur and must tackle the world of other players around them, all trying to survive in their own story. It's insane to me how small this thing is, considering it grows up to be the same weight as a small bus. So I was only a few minutes old, and already I was reminded just how much life is in the world around me, and suddenly the lake felt very large and a daunting place to be. So for all I know, there's already a big croc in here. That's a scary thought. But I do feel safer in the water. It wasn't long before I noticed things going on land, and it reminded me why I felt so much safer in the water. They sound pretty big, those footsteps. But then I'm pretty small, so... As much as I'm very curious to know what's going on, I have to remember that the closer to the water I am, the safer I am. And as quick as I was born into the Isle, this Cerato's time had come to an end. And it wasn't too long before I smelt my first piece of food. honest, at this size, this food goes a long way. As always though, I don't want to be on land for any longer than I have to be, so it was straight back to the water. Once again though, curiosity had me checking out a group of raptors. After all, this was all new and I was calibrating to the world around me. I just wanted to give these guys a little scare. I don't think they're too scared, but it was worth a try. That actually did a lot of damage. And just like that, all of a sudden, I didn't feel so safe in the water either. Okay, so right now my only safe place is under the water, which is not even safe then, because other crocs. Eventually it was time to start healing and do some growing. Already I had no idea if this patch of land had any danger, but that's just life on the Isle. Every step is a gamble. The next day I logged in and I saw my first other crocodile. A part of me wanted to say hello, but a part of me knew just how dangerous doing that would be. We are gonna keep to ourselves for a bit, I think, and just stay hidden. I hear splashes. So there is definitely another crocodile, but I think we're about the same size. So I'm alright. I'm not too worried at the moment. I had already been further down the lake than I felt safe to do so, and it was time to go back to my little patch of water at the back of the lake. Now this giant stego is no doubt great for growth. However, if there's other crocs in the area, a meal this size will undoubtedly draw attention. Okay, new plan. We're going to take bits off and we're going to swim away. Less time at the stego is safer. Right, so I just have to hope now that other crocodiles go for the stego and not the bits of food that I've ripped off of the stego. I knew I heard someone else. If I was going to survive in this world, I was going to have to use a bit of diplomacy as well as brute force. I always feel a little bit vulnerable when I'm drinking like this. I was now the bigger crocodile. But I was not hungry, and so I didn't see the need to senselessly kill this juvenile. Hey man, I was that small once. Not very long ago, to be honest. And I am still very small. Every time I woke up on a new day, I had no idea how the world around me might have changed. Where there were no crocs before, there could be anywhere now. This is my food now, sorry. Oh, he's actually quite big. He's bigger than me. Yep, time to go. So the big guy is semi-chill. He's not chatting and he's not actively chasing, but if you get too close, he tries to kill you. However, as I entered the water, I noticed the croc must have also smelt the food. So in a split-second decision, I dropped the food and I faced the water so that I could at least try and get a bite on his head as he came out. I also very quickly picked a mutation to help me do more damage, and then I just had to hope that I wasn't too small and that I could win the fight. Much to my relief though, he was friendly, and it's a good job I didn't make that first bite because I probably would be dead. This guy just really doesn't want to let us take the food. Now, if I was bigger, he probably wouldn't be trying this, but he knows I'm small enough to be a pain in my bum. And the food has now disappeared. Brilliant. As the sun rose on a new day, it was time to find some more food. Alright, okay, now there's too many of us. I need to leave. Okay, is he going? The sun was shining and my colours were showing as I began to get larger. So far, through luck and caution, I had stayed out of trouble. However, if you're not careful, it can be easy to think you're bigger than you are. Oh, I am so stupid. I should have not taken this fight. Yep, that was a lesson learned. I was still nowhere near big enough to be trying to take down fully grown tennos. Look at little guy having a go. You go get him. Since I've been growing well and putting on more weight, it was time to start venturing out into the rivers, just a little bit further from home. I was far from fully grown, and so I still had to be careful. Pretty quiet on the western front, I won't lie. Not many drinkers today. It is nice to get out into the rivers though, just a change of scenery, something a bit different. Leave the lake. Since there wasn't much going on in the rivers, we decided to head back up to the lake before nightfall. What I didn't know at the time, though, was it would have been safer to stay in the rivers. As I made my way around the rocks, I heard some large footsteps running towards me, so I quickly darted back into the river. Okay, I think we'll try the other side, probably a bit safer. However, whilst we were away, someone else had claimed the throne of the North Lake. Alright. That was a good day of river swimming. We explored the world a bit more. And Thanakon's brought dinner. Perfect. Oh my god, big croc, big croc. No, Thanakon. He's been grabbed. Wait. He's grabbed him. The big croc's grabbed him. It was pure darkness and horror. My friend was in the jaws of an incredibly large crocodile, and I was constantly weighing up the choice between trying to help free him and preserving my own life. But despite not being able to see anything, I decided to harass the other croc as much as I could and try to make him let go. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's let him go. I think he's free. I think I might have done enough for now. Right, but we need to get out of here because I'm even smaller than Thanakon, so if I get attacked by that big croc, it's game over. However, just when I thought I was free, he was back for round 2. I immediately darted for the darkness below, hoping to mask myself in the murky depths for long enough to evade detection. I was very quickly losing stamina, and soon I wouldn't be able to cover much ground at all. Eventually I found a spot on the lake bed, and I just waited. And then shortly after, Thanakon's name just disappeared. Now whether he managed to log out, I don't know. But one thing was for sure, I was now completely on my own. I need oxygen. I think if that's not nighttime, I'm dead. I think because it was so dark, he just couldn't find us. Or at least not me. Once I was happy that I was in the clear, I found a nearby bush and I logged out for the night. We were halfway to fully grown and had our fair share of life experiences as a croc in the aisle already. When I logged in the next day, to my surprise, I could already hear a large croc. I really hope it's not that same crocodile. Whether it was the same croc as before, it's impossible to know for sure, but it wasn't a very welcoming sound. Thankfully though, it didn't seem like I was on this croc's menu. After a quiet evening, Lieutenant Button decided to store his crocodile, which is a feature of this particular server where when you're done with your crocodile and you're 100% grown, you can store it to use another day. But it does leave me with a nice big juicy corpse. I got organs to last me a lifetime and I don't even need it. And the gastro's not working, so I guess I'll just eat what I can now. But that's when I heard some other splashing in the water. But I wasn't worried, it didn't sound too big. And it was indeed just a little juvenile croc. And so I offered up some food, since I was never going to be able to eat all of this myself. When I logged in the next day, I noticed there were two crocodiles chatting with each other. Which may not seem like a big deal, but if there's two chatting, it means they're already in their group of two, which means any other croc is a threat to their group. Now I think that is one over there. Or maybe I don't even think it's one of those two. I think it's another croc doing to those two what I'm doing to this croc, and just watching from afar. Now my movement clearly startled him, and we paused for a moment to size each other up. But he had no ill intentions, and so we went our separate ways. And now it was time to go back to the rivers. I was now big enough and I felt brave enough to head off on my own. There is something in those bushes eating and sort of walking around. I don't know exactly where it is, but it's in there. With O2 running low, I had to just go, and unfortunately there was nothing there, but it was some free food, so we'll take that. Before we go any further, it was time to find a secluded spot and get some air back. I was now 75% grown, and I was the furthest I'd been downriver since I was born. I had to make a decision now whether to commit to going past the point of no return, or to stay where I knew best, where I knew there was food, and where I was fast becoming the dominant croc in the lake. But I decided it was time to truly live. I could survive in this lake, but it wouldn't truly be living, and so I embarked on a long, dangerous land crossing that if I got spotted by most dinosaurs on land, I wouldn't be able to run or defend myself. Now at this point I decided why stop here. If I'm going to go so far into land that it could quickly become the worst decision I ever make, I might as well keep going and try and visit East Lake. Now I needed as much water as possible because I've never made this journey before, but I know it's going to cost me a lot of water and it's going to cut it very close. Thankfully, using the cover of darkness and being relatively low to the ground, it would give me the best chance of not being seen. As morning rolled around, we were still in the thick of the jungle, but it now became even easier to get spotted. But just as my thirst turned red, I emerged from behind a rock and I was greeted with the sight of a swampy lake. We had made it, but with one worry taken care of, another was born. There was still a very real risk of there being other crocs in this lake. I had to be very vigilant and on the lookout for others the whole time. Right, actually, my next issue is going to be food as well, because that did cost us a lot of food getting over here. So there's a lot of Troodon corpses, but those alone are still going to lead to starvation. They're not going to be enough. And just as food was becoming an issue, I picked up the scent of a small croc corpse. Thankfully it was just a little bit more food and would hopefully buy me enough time to get to my next meal. Right, well that's probably giving me an extra few minutes. On with the next hunt. So the Troodons were very small and not a large meal, so I had to weigh up if I risked giving away my position for a small meal, but secondly they were drinking in very shallow water and they were far more nimble than I was. I decided against revealing myself just yet. However, there were no other opportunities and so I decided to call it a day. When I logged in the next day, I was no longer alone. There were two other crocs that were here with me, but they were much smaller. And it seemed that I had them on edge. I was that croc that when I was first born in, I was afraid of. Now they're saying I'm ignoring them, but I actually don't even see them. I genuinely didn't see them, so they're lucky because I probably would eat them. I'm very hungry. After another failed hunt, I picked up the scent of something further inland, but I was desperate enough now that I went in to get it. I decided that this would be the meal to get me back across to the main river. East Lake was just too difficult for opportunities and therefore there just wasn't enough food. And so with that, I set off to make the dangerous journey back across land. From here, it was time to carry on down to the main river and see what lies ahead. Like, you have to imagine, this crocodile has only ever seen North Lake its whole life, and now all of a sudden it's been over to East Lake, been back across land, we're now seeing all of this for the first time. After hearing some chatter a bit further up the river, I decided to take a back seat and just wait. However, it soon became apparent that this was a nest, and there were young crocs around. Thankfully, from what I could tell, one of the parents was logging off. Now, this parent had two choices. He could stay and protect his family, or he could continue to sleep. Now, my intentions weren't to attack, but he doesn't know that. Thankfully, though, he just chose to go to sleep and log out. These cute little guys were taking their first steps in a brand new world. Now, isn't that just a reminder to how small I was when I started? They'll be a tiny bit smaller because they were hatchlings, but I wasn't far off. I could feel a sort of instinct to try and protect them, however, I knew they still had another parent around, so I had to be careful. I decided to get back into the water, just in case Mum got a bit protective and came over to see if her kids were okay. I think the kids were more protective of the mum than the other way around, to be honest. They were feisty little guys. It was time to say goodbye to the kids. They were now at an age where they had to leave the nest. And the reality is that their size in an area like this, they probably won't all make it. I really hope they did, but it's a tough world out there. That was so scuffed. So first I lunged when I was on the floor and it just launched me up. And then the second lunge didn't really lunge properly, so I don't even know why I didn't grab him. Now missing that Dilo led to some lessons from Ali. They were super helpful, and hopefully going forward I can be a bit more effective at my lunging. But I do still think that the croc's lunging can be a little bit janky sometimes. Now we were heading up to water access. This area can be notoriously bad for having a duo of crocs trying to control it, and so we had to be prepared for anything. This is the final stretch. Here we go. Now thankfully there wasn't anyone our size, but we did clean up the few other crocs that were in there. Now, rather than getting a tiny amount of food from this dead pteranodon, I decided to see if I could bait out some larger, more fulfilling food. Right, we'll pop you just here. And honestly, I was surprised by how quickly someone came along for a bite. I had been growing my whole life for this moment, and learning from the more experienced crocs along the way. And as quickly as I had emerged, I disappeared back into the depths. It seemed this area was teeming with life, and none of it was too aware what waited in the water. I definitely just saved that Dilo's life. He's getting pinned until he's dead if I don't turn up. Although, to be honest, I probably should have let him die first and then just took the food. I noticed a Pachycephalosaurus fighting for his life, to the point where he took his chances crossing the water. And unfortunately, it just wasn't his day. Another yummy meal. Luckily for this croc, I was on a full stomach, and so I wasn't interested in killing him. I made my way back down the river, but this time with no destination in mind, just an aimless swim to see what opportunities arise. This guy has absolutely no idea there's a croc here. I'll leave him be. Oh, here come the ducks. Now I wonder if I circle back on myself once they're out the water. I think they're stopping on that island, yeah. He's seen, he immediately U-turned, he's gone back to the island to tell his friends, don't go in the water, he's coming back. We got him. These pteranodons were playing with fire for just a little bit too long. That was such a good catch. Love that. I've never really seen... I don't think I've seen that before. I'm just getting a little bit more desperate. There's a lot of shallow water here, so I'm going to see if I can take my chances on land. Oh, I nearly caught him out. Now, his friend was not going to fall for the same tricks. It is time to get some O and the 2. It was this decision not to keep going towards the other croc that would be the start of the end. I instead turned back to go back up the river. Oh my god, they're two fully grown. They're two fully grown. And I don't even have the swim perk. I can't swim faster than them. At this point, it was just panic. I couldn't outrun them and I couldn't outfight them. I just had to hope that maybe fighting back would put them off. But unfortunately, this would be the end of an incredible life of adventure.